Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 26th, and we are going to reconvene our budget meeting. And we're going to start with the Office of Public Defense. Mr. Ziegler.
Morning. I guess this session is what I always call the good news, bad news. Although I have submitted a revised draft. You'll note that we worked on one as of August 30. When I appeared in front of you the last time, I thought we pretty much decided if we were going to start changing the office over to an employee thing, we would do it incrementally. So since that meeting, I've recruited Mr. Dow here out of Benton County.
Good morning.
At that meeting, you also approved an assistant, and I hired Dimitri out of the clerk's office upstairs.
Morning.
So those obviously represent additions. According to our computations, we're basically going to ask for about 85.5 over and above what we originally asked for as of August 30. That's going to represent the added cost of both Dimitri and Mr. Dow behind me. It also represents what we had to do in juvenile with Mr. Hultgren and Karen Oldfield to get them up to speed. You'll notice that on the 1025 draft, Trinity Orozco does not appear on the left-hand side in the green box under District Court. I think we're going to lose her either way. If she wins the election, she'll go on the bench. If she loses, she's already tendered a resignation because she won't be able to Villarreal, her opponent. So we're going to have to replace her. As of right now, I think this is reasonably solid. As I reported to you in August, I'm still worried about this new mandate from the legislature about the county has to provide lawyers for parents in the civil proceedings in the juvenile court. We currently have 4 cases outstanding. And what we've been working on that, 45 days? About 45 days, we don't have a single attorney that's expressed an interest in doing that work. Nobody can find, the judges can't find anybody, nor can we find anybody that will express the slightest interest in doing it. I'm concerned about that since, as I told you before, we're offloading 4 lawyers out of juvenile starting January 1. The state's going to take them over for handling the children in the dependency proceedings. So that's not going to come out of our cash register anymore. The only thing I'm worried about there is when I met with them and asked them, well, who's going to cover your overflow conflicts on that? There was just dead silence. And I know exactly what they're going to try to pull and who they're going to come to. And as I told you in August, you know, they were just dumbfounded that they couldn't find lawyers that were interested in doing that part of the job even. So basically, that's where we're at. In 2021, we had 444 cases filed total. As of September 30, this year, we're up to 464. We had 4 homicides in 2021. Through September 30 of this year, we've got 5. And we've got 1 quarter to go. And I've got a hunch most of you probably read the paper and watch the news like I do. And it seems like we're averaging about 2 or 3 shootings a week. So I don't expect that to go down at all in 2023. The grant this year will be reduced from 93 to 83,000. We returned, the last time we returned anything to you, it was 88.6 that we gave back to the county. We came in under. As of October 24, Monday, we're running right now at about 75% budgeted for our office total, and we've got 1. Knock on wood, we'll still be able to give you some money back and come in under the wire. I'd like to do that because I don't think we've ever failed to give money back the time I've been here, but this represents a major change. But it's the way I interpreted the orders you gave me, and that's all I can tell you. That's where I see it shaking out right now.
Questions?
I got one.
Mr.
Larry, you
Johnson?
mentioned that having a difficult time finding attorneys for some of these dependency things. In the public defense world, parts of the country, judges can just tell somebody who's an attorney, you're going to represent this client in a criminal action. Could that happen for these types of hearings?
I think that court commissioners or judges from, that starts January 1.
That may be true, and that may be a rule that they promulgated to protect themselves. I mean, they've always fought that tooth and nail. They don't, I've brought it up to them more than once in the last 5 or 6 years, and that was a very short conversation. I don't think that's going to answer the question, though. I mean, we're getting down now to where there's just a lot of lawyers that are smart enough to know this is not, if you're going to do this job, you're probably going to be a brand-new person. Then you got to get yourself qualified to do it. Then you're going to find out just how abusive and the environment can get. It's a thankless job in many respects. Just the nature of the job. I think I told you before, the legal profession has brought a lot of this on itself. The judges haven't helped. I started this business in '81. The rule book was about like this. Now the rule book's about like this. Basically got a system here that is designed solely for the benefit of the criminals. Citizens are just kind of over here, the victims. Maybe the pendulum will start to change before I get around to see it, but I'm not going to. So I don't know where that's going to go, Keith. I really don't. I'm not going to try to predict it. It's getting harder. It really is. I appreciate what the board did in terms of allowing us to be competitive. At least now I can go across the river like Mr. Dow sitting here. I got to recruit him out of Benton. We've already talked about replacing Ms. Orozco in district, so we're probably going to have to kick that compensation up. That's the market. You know, you got to have a certain amount of money on the table to get somebody to come in. I can't change that. It's just business. Just be aware that I may be coming back to you, but I'm trying to, don't shake your head.
Mr. Ziegler, you came in here saying, you said you had good news and bad news. Where's the good news?
He's still here, that's the good news.
I don't know, I don't know. It gets discouraging. But I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm learning a lot. I must say I got a great political lesson after you approved my hiring Mr. Dow and my new assistant here. Now I understand how the spider web works in this building. When somebody A gets a raise, everybody else comes running down, screaming and yelling, and so I know better now. I'll be sneakier next time when I do it.
You're in a position where you don't get to, in any way, define the requirements of the office.
Pretty hard.
You don't have any real direct control over the resources fed into the office to meet those requirements.
No.
The market is competing against you because of the size of the county.
Yes.
And there's a whole lot of folks who aren't particularly empathetic to your mission.
Oh, no.
It's not a real exciting place to be,
No,
but
it isn't.
kudos to you for hanging in there.
You know, and the other part of my job is I've always taken the position that I'm kind of like the shortstop between first and third when it comes to potential civil liability on the part of the county. You know, if I can make the play, I'll do it. If it gets past me, or if it's something I can't handle, then I probably got to throw the ball to Jen Johnson upstairs, the civil deputy, and then the two of us get involved. But I'm kind of like that extra layer of protection. And I take that serious.
Sure.
When I get complaints, I don't waste any time. I'm usually on a complaint within 40 seconds.
Well, as you know, the Wasatch has argued with the legislature for decades over indigent defense funding.
Oh, yeah?
And I haven't seen a county yet that's really had I'll just say the ability. You can define whether that's backbone or politics or whatever, but hasn't had the ability to just stop providing services and tell the state, listen, we can't fund it, and if you don't, then it's not going to happen.
I'll tell you, I think I may be around long enough to see that.
Well, I think you
I think
may.
we're getting close to the point where a lot of counties, and I suspect we're probably in better shape than some. I think Benton County's probably in better shape financially than us
Oh, sure.
in terms of the amount of money they've got to throw at the problem. But we're getting close to where I think some of the smaller counties are gonna say, we're just not gonna do it because we can't do it. We can't take care of the parks, we can't take care of the roads, we can't take care of our employees, we can't fund our pensions. You want us to throw all this money into the people in our population that contribute nothing and produce nothing. I think we're getting to the point where you sense this in the taxpayers, I think. I'm very aware of it. I get people come up to me all the time, and how come you're still doing this? Why? 40-plus years, aren't you getting tired?
Well, there are small counties like Pacific, not to single them out, but their revenue streams are a lot tighter than ours, but they have a lot of the same requirements, and
They do have the same.
we're coming to a crunch point. Legislature gets out of it by simply either pointing to or creating a statute that gives the counties the authority to tax their citizens to pay for it. And that's the unfortunate gate that they keep using, because we can only continue to tax so much. But anyway,
We've still got the big variable here, of course, is, the expert witnesses and the investigators, and we've kept a pretty good lid on that. I think I've only denied, 2 requests so far this year, sent them back to the judge?
A couple,
A couple.
yeah.
Where I just wasn't comfortable. We had experts coming in here that wanted 15,000 up front. You got to be careful with those people too. Experts love to tell you, they give you a 28-page resume and they'll write you a 2-page report for 15,000 bucks and then say, oh, now it'll cost you another 15 for me to testify.
Kicked back to Superior Court judges. Superior Court judges review them, and then ultimately, usually they are approved, and we end up having to pay it.
And then we'll pay it because I have to obey the order. I don't like that, but that's the way it's the way it works. That's basically where I'm at. That's my summary. So you're all happy with it.
until the law changes, I look at this account very much like I do autopsies. Not that there's necessarily a direct correlation, but they're must-pays,
Yeah.
because otherwise you end up in front of the court and ends up costing you what you were going to have to pay initially plus extra.
I can tell you point blank, and don't doubt, we try to ride as hard and tough a herd on our people as we can. I don't cut corners if I think it's gonna expose the county to a reversal, so we've gotta do a case all over again. But we're not throwing your money away, period. And I don't have any problem telling you that at all, because that's just the way we run. Our idea is to give money back every year if we can.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You. Thanks. You have a good day, buddy. You too.
Welcome. To join a conference now, please. If you are the meeting host, please.
So next we have, were we trying to call somebody up here?
Yeah.
Requirement to maintain a law.
So next we have the commissioner and county administrator.
Huh?
24.
Sure the Bar Association wouldn't like that, would they?
Yeah. Tim, could you advance the slide to the commissioners? Thank you.
I don't think there's really any changes throughout your budget other than the things I can think of is the 125,000 that was added for the redistricting lawsuit fees. That's in there in the non-departmental.
Help me understand the salaries and wages line, that entire personal services, that reduction, 55,000, and I don't recall what that's related to.
I think it's just, I think it's actually just related to salary savings that we're estimating from positions being unfilled primarily, with you being gone. And then that was early on, I think, before we even got Dwayne, so that may have to be adjusted back up again.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the budget we submitted was just a rollover from '22. Most of those lines are fairly consistent with prior year's history and our current spending.
Not sure that budgeting for temporary vacancies is not a great approach. I think that ought to just come out.
I guess one of the discussion points is on the 119 fund. So my understanding is there's not going to be any funding for related to like sheriff or corrections or anything. Is that already?
Yeah, there's not currently anything proposed that's coming from ARPA funds for the sheriff's office in '23. We obviously made a lot of purchases in '22 with ARPA funds, but those other remaining funds are going to be for different programs.
So everything is already slotted out.
More or less. It hasn't been acted upon by the board yet, so it's not official. It's not. It's still fluid, but at the same time, we've had more money requests than we have dollars left. So.
Because that's going to be one of the big decision points for the board, because the
Right.
way the sheriffs and corrections submitted is they submitted requesting money from the 119 fund again this year. So whether or not they get it from there or some or all of it or none of it comes from current expense will be a decision that needs to be made.
Okay.
Well, if they put it in their budget under the 119, I don't see how it then comes out of current expense. That would be a,
They requested it from 119, but ultimately it sounds like that money is already
Committed.
committed to.
right, I understand that. So if you ask for money out of the 119 that's not available, it doesn't automatically mean that it's going to come out of current expense. It means you don't get the money. Unless I'm missing something.
Yeah, yeah. The board could choose to fund it from current expense or somewhere else, or not at all. Do you have an idea how much they did? They're looking for?
For the sheriffs, there's 404,151, so it's in tab 20, and then I think it's a blue tab, or, well, no, it's not, mine's different than yours. It's on tab 20, and then the tab says sheriff's budget 101,520, and the last page in that has 119 requests of 404,151. And then there's more for corrections too, I believe. In tab 21,
Well, I've got that on tab 24, page 62 is where I'm at, and I've got those figures that you're going over.
okay. Maybe I have it in, I probably have it in both places, I guess.
I'm on tab 24, page 62, and I'm following you with everything.
Okay. I probably have it in both places. And then 42,020 in the corrections budget.
What was that number again?
42,020, so
Okay.
they had 37,020 that was in last year's, and they were requesting an additional 5,000.
Okay. Tim, was there anything in the miscellaneous funds there that we needed to mention?
I can't think of
those are pretty
anything.
much to roll over from
Yes,
prior
I-
year as well.
Yes, I do believe so. I don't think there was, nothing comes to mind that stood out.
On the non-departmental line, page 42, there's a $50,000 increase for professional services. You know what that's for?
Where was that in? What fund?
Non-departmental, 1,700,
Page 42.
on page 42 of the printout. Yeah, right there.
I would have to. I don't recall. I'd have to, there must be something in the binder.
All of those increases, I don't see any supporting information of what those are for. The professional services,
I think it was probably,
the auditing, state examiner.
I think Tom probably increased some of those lines just looking at the how much we've
Current
spent.
spend rate,
Yeah, and so put in
probably
some
makes
requests
sense.
based on prior year spending is what it looks like.
Insurance, I know what that one is. Judgments and settlements, okay.
State audit always seems to never fail to go up.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And you already mentioned the redistricting lawsuit fees, 125. Okay,
In the 191 fund, you'll notice significant increases, so that's the mental health fund, and there's, I've got $2.9 million of revenue budgeted for that new sales tax. Right now, the spending for that is mostly in contingency. I don't know if the board has, I don't know if some of that contingency should be moved to professional services, or I don't know if
yeah,
there's
it's going to
current
get
plans.
split up, but the committee hasn't even made recommendations
Okay.
yet to the commissioners on what they prioritize, so that's probably the best place to leave it for the moment, is just leave it in that contingency line, and then as plans develop, we can move it into,
But we've been receiving in like almost right around 250,000 a month, I think.
It's a small potatoes, but just a education for me kind of thing. Back on page 42, the non-departmental, under revenues, P-card rebates, and it says U.S. Bank. I'm a little bit confused. I thought our P-card, isn't our P-cards go through Umpqua? So
It is
what's-
Umpqua. I think I think it's probably just a name change.
US Bank, that probably just needs to be.
Oh, that just said
updated.
heading? But, and then furthermore, I see, once again, it's small potatoes, but I see that there's nothing there. So we're not achieving any kind of rebate? Or was it classified somewhere else? I don't see another P-card revenue. So I guess I can inquire about what, I know we're a smaller county, but we made considerable amount of rebates at Benton County. I mean, it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I'm kind of, this is small potatoes here, but I think they should be bigger. Unless we're not really utilizing, I'm new and I don't know how much credit cards are utilized, but they look like they're utilized quite a bit. So. I can get with you later about that.
Yeah, I don't recall right off. I know I've seen some come in, but I think they are. I don't even think it's $1,000 a quarter or anything. I think it is relatively small, but
I know we're incurring a lot of fines because departments aren't getting a process fast enough, and I wanted to talk to you about.
I thought it would have been in non-departmental, but I'm not seeing it. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
that wouldn't have been, that's a separate issue, but
Yeah, it's not
we'll
standing
talk
out to
more
me.
offline about it. This is
Okay.
kind of small, yeah. So we're budgeting for a double of the reserve? A double holding other reserve. Is that about right? This is a reserve, right?
Two. $500,000. We've been trying to build that up the last couple of years.
So Tim, the reserve, we got the reserve increasing about 500. Correct?
I think that's based on I think that's based on a potential transfer from current expense of 500,000 if beginning fund balance came in decently. But yes, it is. I mean, and there was a transfer of, I think, 507,000 this year, which is why it went up, why the number is going up this year to start the year. And it looks like that P card rebate for last year, it looks like it was receipted in the, it probably should have gone in non-departmental, but it looks like it went in the aid to other governments fund. I didn't pull up the receipt, but it looks like it went in there, and there was a $2,600 that was received in last year, 2021. We haven't, I'm not seeing anything in 2022 yet.
On page 51, we talk about some of the historical preservation fees. Looks like we're accumulating a little bit of a fund balance there. Not real big potato.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done any kind of a general request for proposals. I know the city of Connell has some needs right now, and the Franklin Historical Museum has some needs, but they have not made a formal request. But typically, when they make those requests, it comes before the commissioners for consideration, and we award essentially grant funds out of this fund to support those.
Just for my education, have we historically called for proposals from them?
Yeah, it's been kind of a mix of them coming to us saying, do you have any funds available, and us asking them, do you have any projects that you need funding for? But it's been fairly informal.
Okay.
On the sheriff's line 4515, equipment rental, he said at 112,000. What's he renting? What's that rental? Do you know what he's renting or what he's going for there? Two.
Exxon Enterprises, I think that's the
It was the body cams.
like body cams and stuff.
Oh, we're renting those, huh?
I believe
Yeah,
it is
I think
a
that
lease.
was a lease for those so that they could upgrade those on a regular basis rather than have to continue to fund purchasing those.
And then, Tim, another question I got underneath resource accounts, impact fees for Growth Management Act. That'd be page 83. In the tune of 18,400.
I don't know if there's, I don't think they come from recording fees. I think do they come from like building permits and stuff? Do you know, Keith, right off?
Yeah, I think we're required to collect that for park acquisition and capital. It's never been a significant amount of money, but the balance has just been growing because obviously we don't have county parks. We've used it a little bit for some trail improvements and with the city of Pasco and some of the areas where their walking trail that goes along the river crosses non-city property, but we don't have a formal program for creating or maintaining parks. We got out of the park business a number of years ago.
Yeah, just based on this too, it looks like it's coming from planning and building.
Yeah.
Received from them. So it's on the building permit.
In the future, because of our talks with the Corps, what we're doing out there with the Corps,
Yeah, that'd be a good place to,
that'd be a good place to put some of this.
yeah. Providing access to the river.
Yeah. So accumulating a little fund balance is probably a good thing with that.
Yeah.
For what? I'm sorry, Dwayne, I didn't hear you.
What we're doing with the Corps, you want to,
The shoreline reconveyance project that we're doing with Army Corps and the other jurisdictions, there may be an opportunity to use some
Use
of
that,
these
some of
funds
that.
for
Yeah, because it's at
enhancing
222.
river shore access and protection of the river.
From my understanding, we used,
In there, by the
Yeah.
time it gets done, we'll have $1,000 or maybe 2,000.
yeah?
All right.
Put a welcome sign up.
But some of those, we could actually maybe put some of that signage that the tribe has been asking for. Cultural history of tribes in the area.
Interpretive type
Interpret- yeah,
thing. Yeah,
exactly.
that would be good.
Probably multiple ideas of what that could be used for.
Make them happy.
Yeah.
from my understanding, we used to own, I think it was Chihuahua Park we used to own, and we even had a zoo out there at one point, I think. So maybe we could get back into the park business out there.
No zoos. No zoos.
We used to own that chunk of land on the west side of Road 52, is it, where the boat launch is? That big vacant chunk there, we gave that to the city for future park use. That's all city land. Pulled out of all of our park programs. It's probably 2009 or 10, I guess.
Sounds about right.
Because we have the time, can I just ask one other question? Back on page 51, there's a Franklin County ordinance codification that we're not spending any money out of. It's like $6,000 budget. You know what that, who would spend that, Keith, if it was being done?
That would primarily be this office and the clerk for MuniCode, who's our service provider to publish the
Oh, we have a
the
contract to
ordinance.
certify it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recall.
And we have spent minimal amounts in 2020 and 2021, there was 2,800 and then 2,300. So I mean, there's been a little bit each year.
There's kind of like a annual fee now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they maintain the service. It's all available online now. I mean, obviously, years ago, they'd actually publish a paper document, but they make sure that that's updated and current.
And since this was printed, we have had some payments coming out of that for online code hosting to Civic Plus, and then Muni Code services pages as well. So like $2,000 once
One of
again.
those things that the expenditures come in after June 30th. Yeah. June 30th cutoff, expenditures can be missed.
Any further questions on the? So we've got the commissioners' miscellaneous budgets next. Is that?
Well, we kind of went through those already, I
Well, that's what
think.
we're already doing.
Yeah.
Anytime you're ready, I can run across the hall and see if
The auditor.
You
guys ready? Yeah, let's go ahead and get the auditor. Here they come right now. That's perfect time.
Okay.
We're ready for you. Must have heard the silence in the room and knew that you better get over here.
So I'll just try to hit the high spots, I guess, or the big stuff that's either revenue or expense requests, and then take any questions you might have on the materials.
Sounds good.
So the first big one is, obviously everybody's aware of the interest rates and economy. Our estimate on recording fees just trended it, but clearly most of the fees that are going to come through recording documents are going down. I just saw again today where the mortgage rates continue to go up, and they think they won't peak till next year. So, keep an eye on it and try to keep the board informed. But we do see a decrease in the recording fees. So so across the front, or for customer service in the auditor's office, we have cross-trained between licensing and recording. And during the year when Eric was still here, we did ask for some reviews. We have an 11, as well as we had some increased responsibilities, and we had him review them, and he at that time supported them. We were close enough to this budgetary process that we thought it made sense to do it as part of that. And my understanding, or I've heard you talk previously about potential for a comprehensive review, which is great. I support that. I just know this work was done so that if anything, if you are doing some, or doing a hybrid, where some that are already done, makes sense to move, and some, or do a hybrid, approve some and the review, we'd like to be considered, partly because the work's already been done as far as looking at it. So, and those requests are in there. Some of them are, pressing. One of the things I want to highlight in the licensing department is, and this was right before COVID, the state kind of reorganized and now requires the county to complete regular audits. And as part of that, they actually sent some fees, which is amazing. So the county gets more money, but there's a bigger requirement to do that. It was kind of shelved because of COVID, but that's one of the requests in here for our licensing lead. Most of our other requests, either up or down, are just trended in some of the supplies and just some of the line items. The other big ask is everyone knows what's going on with elections. It's far more central to everything in our lives at this point in history. And we requested a vehicle for elections work. I'm excited about the idea of a pool car, so that very likely addresses that need. But in elections, having vehicles that are marked as elections. Right now, the staff picks stuff up. We try to run them efficiently, and either on the way to work or they use their personal cars. Well, that's based on everything I can see. I don't want that going on anymore. It has the wrong appearance. People in street clothes, and they're wearing. You're putting ballots in a Buick. So what I'd like is, whether it's a pool car or whatever the county decides, a couple of them, and we need some that are bigger. The track box gets big, especially during everything's geared towards presidential elections. But the new plan is to, have them wear vests or something that identifies them as Franklin County election workers and driving election cars. So that was.
Will there be multiple people in those cars, or is it?
Yeah, there's WACs and laws requiring dual control. So yeah, that's the case. And so at this point, it's always been more efficient. People on the way to work will meet at the different boxes. We just can't do that anymore. It's a different environment, and quite frankly, they're not comfortable driving their cars anymore. So this is something we need to do. So as part of this process, hopefully these pool cars are good, and we can get one of them. Like I said to Jeff, there's a lot of solutions if we come together on this. I mean, you can allocate a couple to us. We could get magnets that we could put on the sides, that say Franklin County elections. There's a whole bunch of ideas, just as long as the people that are doing this. And we have added 2 boxes. We added one in Mesa and one in Colotis. And so there's some driving going on there as well. So anyway, that was the other big ask that we had.
Pat, can I ask you real quick about those cars? Is there good pull-off ability at all those drop boxes, or is sometimes the car partially in the traffic? The reason I ask is the assessor is marking, they're putting equipment on their cars with lights to decrease liability so that, the warning lights on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess a good question, and the answer is no, we don't. It's typically a drop box. Many of them are drive up anyway.
There's plenty of place to get off the road.
Yes, yeah, and then we have to not only get off the road, you have to unlock it and.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I
And
just,
that's part of, over the years, I think, when we have vests now, there's a lot of things we do to try to, there's a lot of interest nationally. They're very concerned about, frustrated voters and election workers, and so, identifying them and they wear reflective vests, so it's very obvious who they are. And we've always had a pretty good relationship, even with the sheriff's department. If we felt like there was a need, they'll either, I think they've participated in closing boxes if it was convenient, or if they were there, or they were present, they make a drive-by, whatever it is, during different times. So, but yes, to answer your question, we don't necessarily need the same kind of thing as if you were driving around these neighborhoods and taking pictures of houses.
Dwayne, given I don't think that ballot collections and audit surveys don't overlap, so you could probably use those audit vehicles.
Oh, that's a good
Or
point.
those assessor vehicles that already have the lights and the safety equipment, and
The same music,
put
yeah,
a,
that's a
put a
good point.
magnetic sign on it for ballots or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, you could probably use it, yeah, that's a good point.
Other than just the, the regular stuff in our requests, we made an adjustment in the DOL, in the, we just made an adjustment on there where one went down and we reallocated it just for better budgeting. That was one of the revenues for the 80. It's on page 5. So but that's just, yeah, just accounting. For the most part, we're anticipating, we did have I think everyone's aware by now, we lost a very long-term, very effective, just a great subagent. And so we're going through a transition there. And so some of that, we're keeping our eye on the revenues and seeing how that's being impacted, being that it's under it's under different leadership. If you have any questions, I can.
Questions?
Oh, one, Matt, when you do a really sharp reduction of recording fees like that, and it's pretty substantial and probably well justified, there's different components of a recording fee that go different places. When you make that kind of reduction, do you pass that kind of information on to those other departments that have, like, the historical fees and the other components of that fee?
Yeah, and we have that miscellaneous budget. I mean, we could talk about that too. I think, yeah, it filters down through in our estimates. But I mean, the commissioners have their preservation dollar, and you got the O&M fund. But those are,
That's why I was asking if you notify all of them to reduce all those accordingly when you O&M and everything, with the same percentage, right?
yeah, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not we can do it in this process.
There are several accounts, human services in particular, homeless housing, and
Yeah, yeah, that's why I was thinking it should be looked at as like a macro thing and communicated all at the same time. Yeah.
I mean, we certainly can't, everyone creates their own budget, and so if there's we're certainly happy to give our perspective, but generally speaking, most people, their revenues and expenses have the eyes on the same thing we do, so,
Seems that the one that has the bulk should be driving the show and kind of conveying those estimates. It kind of looks wonky if they don't jive, but
right.
it's just,
I think that's something we could do here at the board level, too. I mean, that's really where that comes. We don't really have the authority to go in and tell everyone else how to do their estimates. We certainly have our opinions, but so do they. So I could see that, as I look at where the recording fees go, the stuff that impacts the archives and preservation is like $11, and you could get into the state home security fund and you're up to 100 right away. So affordable housing and administration. So, yeah,
Right.
however I think it's prudent to be very purposeful in making sure they all jibe. Yeah, that would make sense.
I think most of those departments would follow your lead if it just was communicated that you're
Sure.
doing that, yeah.
Well, you hope. But I would say it may be, based on what we're all looking at, prudent to literally schedule maybe a quarterly or mid-year just to review. We do that anyway in our monthly budget meetings, but to make sure that that's, communicated.
Yeah.
So we can see how that stuff trends.
On your auto licensing, where there's such a reduction in the revenue total, is it because people are filing online?
Well, the motor vehicle are you talking about on the 80 fund there where we were just adjusted it to 366?
It's, page 5, operating revenue total.
Well, so, I think that's where we reallocated, when we did it the first time, and we created, as we've evolved, it used to all fall under one fund, and then we started breaking it out between the courthouse and the two subagents. And our initial estimate was we're working numbers, and now we've got a year's worth of data, so we're reallocating. So if you look at the red there at the top, it's a negative. We took 366,000 off of that, but we increased the other two subagents. So if you go to the bottom, you know, we're estimating potentially a decrease of 11.75. So it's relatively, revenue-wise, it's, our estimates, for all intents and purposes, level.
Okay.
Sub-agent or not, your income's the same, right? If they go to,
Well, we've had that, I think we talked about that. There was the fee equalization, and actually it helped the sub-agents, but the money that comes in, they charge an extra $5 to the citizen, but in here it goes to the ferries. So, but they pay the same, but yes. Oh, you're talking to me, yeah. There
Yeah.
is a move statewide to try to put, you know, yes, the income to the county's the same from that regard. I'm thinking from the citizen standpoint, I'm
yeah,
sorry. But yes, revenue to the county's the same.
yeah,
Transaction in the county benefits the county,
so far.
so far.
But if you live in Benton County and you license your car in Pasco, Franklin County, Franklin County gets the revenue from that,
That's
is that correct?
And that's why we were fortunate to have the sub-agent that we did, because if a sub-agent goes out and hustles and gets certain customers, you can capture licensing revenue from all over the state.
Are these licensing agents, are they doing payments online as well?
Yeah, if you go online to pay, you can pick where you want to send it. There's been discussions over the years we've been in there about how that list is priority, because you know how it works, right? It's like a Google search. If you're at the
Right,
top,
if you're at the
nobody's
top,
going
you're-
to the bottom. No one's like, hey, I'm from Franklin County. I'm just going to go to Franklin County. So there's discussions on that. But yes, that's how that works, is online. Everyone's listed, I believe, so.
Okay.
I think the important thing there is if the business is happening in Franklin County gets a fee, whether it's our sub-agent or it comes directly to the courthouse.
That's
If
what,
they choose Benton County, a sub-agent over there, obviously but they live in Franklin County, Benton County gets that money.
Right. So if the Benton County was closed during COVID and they drove across the river to Franklin County, we got that percentage of that.
that was exactly what
Licensing.
happened. We stayed open, and then our sub-agent stayed open, and it benefited the county nicely. The purpose wasn't financial. It was literally, from our standpoint, and from hers at the time, was, these people still need these transactions, and you can't just,
As a Benton County resident, I bring my money here.
Thank you.
If you happen to have a used auto auction in your county, that's a whole bunch of registrations that can stay in the county, even though those vehicles are drawn from throughout the region to come in and be sold here.
Sub-agents' lobbying abilities seem to increase every year.
Waves is a very powerful lobby. I don't know, Waves serves Waves, though, and there's a whole discussion to be had.
Yep.
Get the votes. I don't know. Good.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Beaton. Looks like we're ahead of schedule. We got a break scheduled at 10:30, and I see the coroner's here. Do we want to continue?
Before I go, I will say you look very relaxed, Keith, and I can't figure out why.
No, I think he looks yancy because he's going to get to see them grandkids.
Thanks, guys.
They've all got COVID right now, so,
They do?
yeah, I hope they're clear by the time I get there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a few requests on mine here. So far this year, we've done well with our budget. The autopsy fee does concern me. My autopsies have increased from about $1,100 to $2,700, so I'm kind of short there, but we've cut some ideas out. When this happened, I cut all my travel out, so hopefully I'm taking my travel, and I'm going to be able to move that over into my budgets to cover those autopsies, so I don't have to come and ask for more funds to cover autopsies. In salaries and wages, I've placed a $2,000 increase here for my part-time help. The state has requested, or they passed an RCW that requires all of our investigators to be medical legal death investigators. And so to get my part-time help trained and have the field experience, I'm going to need to have more hours for them than what I currently use them. I use them probably about maybe 1 weekend a month is what I use the part-time help. And just to get them trained so they'll have the hours to take the test, pass the requirements. I'm just going to need to increase their hourly hours. The rate of pay will stay the same, it's just the hours, so that would increase that. Secondly, office supplies, I just increased by $400 just simply because of inflation of things. I still think I can make it work with that amount. Another one was vehicle increase from the ER&R. That's just from the Public Works because of primarily fuel. I've got, let's see, what was the other? Training certificate, that goes along with that, getting the part-time help certified and trained for their exams.
Curtis, none of those are showing up as increases on my page.
That's what I noticed here too. They're not in red.
Well, they're
On page 16?
yeah.
It's in row N over here on the screen, I see.
It's in as a request.
Well, like vehicle rentals and leases, your 22 working budget was 15,960, which is what you have for this year. So the only thing I'm seeing in that whole expenditure line outside of personnel is just one reduction of $400 in tools. Everything else is showing up as status quo, no increase, no decrease. Is that what you intended?
No, I'm not sure why it came out like that, because what I printed off here, which is what I thought I submitted.
Yes,
showed all
mine's
the
showing
increases.
up.
It's not showing it here on the screen either, though.
It is, it's in this column
It's in
right
that,
here.
it's just not showing it in red.
Yeah.
It would
The
show it in the total if I put yes here, but it hasn't been approved yet, so it's only
Okay.
as a request.
Okay. So,
So Curtis, the autopsies, is that due to drug overdoses? Is that the main cause of the autopsies?
Here throughout all the previous.
yes and
pages.
no. With that new machine I've got, I've been able to pretty much eliminate my drug overdose autopsies,
You can.
because it's telling me if there's drugs on board or not
In the body.
in the body. If I can do a urine test, a rapid urine test, that'll tell me one thing, and then also I can do a blood draw and test the blood, and if it has
Yes, until it's
amounts in
approved, right?
there. I still have to send them off to the labs, the state lab, just to verify it. But I did just get an update which it's at a cost, but it'll also give me quantitative amounts, so I can tell exactly how much is in there. But the autopsies, we've had our homicides, vehicular homicides or accidents, those types of things, or unknowns. And so previously, we were able to take those to Snohomish County, and then because they lost their pathologist, they had to cut back. Spokane took us on, and then they lost one of their pathologists, so they temporarily stopped us. That's right when I had a homicide. I ended up going to Pierce County after calling all the other counties. Pierce was finally able to take us on. Their rates are, Spokane, I'm averaging probably $2,400. Pierce County was $2,700 versus $1,100.
And we looked into eastern Washington counties, maybe grouping up and hiring our own. And where's that at?
We're still trying to do that. Benton County got approval to go ahead with that and hire their own. It's just
Finding a pathologist.
finding a pathologist. They're just, we're like, I think there's 500 working nationwide right now. They only get fellowships coming out of school, doing their fellowships. There's like 60 or 70 is all. In the state, we have like 4 or 5 that are about to retire. We're 17 short in the state, or so they're saying. It's a nationwide thing. We've also worked with the state of allowing the visa and also the debt forgiveness program. And they finally agreed that we are in need, and so they gave us one of the 32 I think the state allows. They gave us one to offer that to. The problem too is getting a pathologist that wants to come over here and work by theirself. Most of them want to work with other pathologists so they can bounce things off of and run things by each other. So we are in that process. If we get that, then our cost will be less, and we won't have our travel time too. But
Curtis, what's our reimbursement from the state running for autopsies now?
we're at 40%, and that's part of that request there for the training is it won't start till 2025, but if we don't have that requirement met, then we're subject to lose that 40%. The office is accredited. I was able to do that last year. That's another requirement. And then also having myself, my full-time, all medical legal death investigator certified. So we've met that requirement. So it's just those. We're at 40%. We're talking at Waco, we talked in our meetings about going to legislation and increasing that. That fee was set like in 2006, the 40% was. We're talking bumping it up to 45%. That would help quite a bit with our funds on that. So
For child, it's higher, right? Isn't there?
for an infant, it's 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get 100% on infants.
I didn't know if that had changed over the
Yes.
years. Yeah.
If it's an L&I claim or anything like that, I always check with L&I because they will pay for it. So far, when it comes to L&I, everyone I've asked, they've denied. So we won't do an autopsy if they deny it because they don't want to pay their fees.
So I know that the Benton County position, you said it hasn't been filled, but did they create that over there with the assumption that maybe they would be able to share some of the cost by them?
They approved it, they're total funding it, with the idea that surrounding counties will come to them and help offset their
Okay,
cost.
so they did look at it like a regional thing?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
would really help us out a great
It
deal.
would, yes, yeah. And they just got that approved 2 weeks ago, is when they
Oh, very recent.
Yeah, just approved it. You know, like Thurston County, they've had an autopsy position opened. They've had nobody apply for it, except a high school kid. He thought, hey, this looks like a fun job, not knowing what it was even. And they were offering, I think, 180 to 200,000 plus benefits. And you just can't, now you gotta talk, you know, you gotta be up there in the threes or so to get a pathologist to even respond to it. So,
And because I heard about those Eastern Washington talks years ago that they were looking at doing some, but even if that happens, someone has to be the administrator, someone has to someone has to be the lead.
yes, yeah.
Some county does.
Yeah. There is a proposal amongst counties that one county put out, creating regional ones. I'm really not in favor of it because what that is they want to charge each county $1.10 per population.
Oh,
So we're at 90-some thousand, we'd be over $100,000. I'm asking for 54 this year.
so is something that grand, would that require legislation to create something like that? You're creating like?
It may, yeah. And what that would do is that would hire the pathologist, the administrator for the region, techs also.
Well, you still got to have a facility too.
You do. We have I mean, Benton County's got a nice one. Grant County's just doing a new one. Kitsap County wants to build one, but I said, you know, you got the cart before the horse. We got to find the pathologist to staff these things. You might have a nice facility, but if we can't staff it, Benton County's been sitting empty for 2 years now.
Yeah. A nice facility too.
Nice facility, but it's just, you know, so, and that's what I think my lucky stars at times that we don't have a facility that's sitting empty, because it just wouldn't pay for itself. You just can't do that, so.
I suggest if you would try to make a political statement, you can do what some politicians are doing and bust the bodies over to Olympia, you know.
There's,
Like Martha Vineyard
yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah, I think what it'll take is one of the days when one of those people over there need an autopsy done and they can't get it done because they don't have a pathologist around, so, yeah. So that, in light of that, I am asking an increase of 14,000 from 40,000 to 54,000 on an increase of that one. Because of the increase in cost of autopsies, and I'm hoping, just like this year, that I can keep it within that budget, even less. So the other one that I have is a new item here. This I'm seeing more of probably because of inflation, cost of doing business. Funeral homes have asked to be reimbursed for the indigent cremations that they're asked to do. We do maybe 1 or 2 a year. And so I've put it in here at $3,000. That would give us enough for 4. The funeral homes, under my proposal, the funeral homes would not be the ones to decide if they're indigent. Indigent is if there's no family, no church, no friends or anybody like that that would be willing to step up and take responsibility. This would be that there's nobody, we can't find anybody. Veterans would not fall under this because they would fall under the veterans account. And we've had one this year that was a veteran that we were able to work with them and get that paid, so that veteran was paid for, and then his ashes were placed up in Spokane or Medical Lake at the state cemetery up there. That would be my proposal there. I've asked, that would be paying the funeral homes $750 per cremation.
Isn't that pretty much the market cost? So they don't
Market
get-
cost is 2,000 some.
Oh, so they are giving us a big break.
Yeah. One facility said they wanted at least $1,000. Another facility said Yeah, $750. That covers our cost at least. One funeral home says, well, at that, it doesn't even hardly make it worth my while. Me, if they don't want to participate, they don't have to participate in the rotation process, and so they just would not. If they don't want to participate in that fee and agree upon that fee, they just wouldn't participate in the coroner's rotation on a monthly basis. So, any questions?
Questions, anybody? Pretty self-explanatory. I got, in the drug overdose, because we're hearing all this fentanyl, are you finding fentanyl with your apparatus? Is that the number one drug that's killing people?
Yes, fentanyl is the number one. 1:30 this morning, there was a fentanyl overdose. It's everywhere. They're putting it in, they're vaping it now. These people that are vaping, they'll put it in there. They'll put it in marijuana now. Drug dealers are now putting it into what I call, it looks like, these sweet tarts. You know, they're coloring it now, so it's rainbow colors. The pill is. It used to be just a blue pill. They called them Mexies, blues. Now they're putting them in different colors, so they're rainbow colors. Looks like in the little sweet tart packages you get, they're about that size too. They're getting more and more creative. At a training we had up at Waco, up in Spokane last month, they were talking, DEA was there talking to us, and within 15 minutes, they said within 15 minutes a kid could have this stuff delivered to the high school. All they do is text. It's no longer a cash basis, it's Venmo even, to pay for it. Their target is younger kids. One pill, one hit of fentanyl can become addictive, can addict someone, and that's all they need is one time. We asked about, okay, but these guys are overdosing, wouldn't that be bad marketing for the drug dealer? And they actually said no, that the drug dealers will actually put it out on their website or on their text messages. Hey, we've got the good stuff. We've got the hot stuff. You know, if they lose one person to an overdose, their figure is we get 10 more new ones. So the nice thing about this machine is within an hour we can know exactly what's in there, and then we can alert law enforcement too, and they can get at it a little quicker. Prosecuting years ago when it first started, we had an infant die from fentanyl overdose, and it was like 3 months later before we found out because of the turnaround on the drug, toxicology turnaround. And by that point, you know, all evidence was lost.
That's the question I got for you, is what is the length after the death that you need to have that apparatus there before it dissipates?
Fentanyl will stay in the system about 5 to 6 days.
Oh, it will.
We draw blood at the scene or back at the morgue. So we have it within an hour. We'll do a blood draw within an hour.
So if a body is not found for 2-3 days, you can still detect it?
We can still get it if we can get blood, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or urine. It'll stay in the urine there too. Also, if we had to do a little more advanced and do vitreous, which is the fluid in the eyeball, that also will show drugs. We can go to the private lab and get those results back about 20 days. State lab has increased drastically. They're doing it about 60 to 70 days now. It used to be 6 months or more. Encouraged by that.
But those all come with a fee, and you got the apparatus that you're getting it done right here, and
Yeah, the state lab doesn't cost us anything,
doesn't.
but the private lab cost us $136. It cost me $30 to run a test here. So if I can run a test here, then I send it to the state lab, which then it doesn't cost me anything. Autopsy too, $30 versus $2,700. Quite a savings.
Yep.
So why do they disguise the fentanyl? I mean, do these people, they realize they're taking fentanyl, correct?
Most of them do, some don't. That's why they want to make it more attractive, as young people think, oh, I'm just taking a acetaminophen. I'm just taking some Tylenol or something like that. So they'll mix it in there with it. You know, I always use the chocolate chip cookie analogy is one chocolate chip, one cookie may have 2 chocolate chips in it. Another one may have 5 in it. That's how fentanyl is made. There's no controlling how much one pill has. So somebody will say, yeah, I want to take a high, I want to get a high, I'll take 1 pill. Well, that pill may have, 5 grains of fentanyl in it, and the other pill had nothing in it. A grain of fentanyl is about the size of a grain of sand, and that's all it takes for them to overdose on it. It's a very strong. One of our trainings we had, they showed a video of them. They import the stuff from China to Mexico. This place paid China $50,000 to learn how to make it. They had that returned in 2 batches, they said. They come back out in the forest, jungles down in Mexico area, making it, creating it, and shipping it up across the borders.
And they take that orally?
You can take it orally. It's just like a little blue pill. If you took like when I take an Aleve, it looks like a leaf, just that color of blue. Orally, or they smoke it, or they'll inject it. Most of them will smoke it though, or they'll take it orally too. They'll take the pill orally. Most of them like to smoke it, inhale it. Not too many like the needles because they don't like needles.
Can I ask a question? It's manufactured, as you said, primarily in Mexico using chemicals imported from China. Why would, if we're having that difficult of time keeping the pills once they're manufactured out of the United States, why wouldn't a manufacturer just import the chemicals from China directly to the United States and not have to go through that risk of losing them at the border or through interdiction?
I would say it's probably getting to that point. There's probably some. They did say that for years we saw stampers. So those are machines that in the powder form they can make the pills. They saw an increase of those being bought here in the States. They're watching Amazon, those types of things, that they can buy these online. And then it decreased. During that increase of time, they saw more powder being smuggled across the border. And then it went to the pill form, and now it's back. They're seeing more pill stampers bought here in the States. And so they're seeing more powder form being smuggled across. Why they do it, I think that it's just easier for them to smuggle it into Mexico from China. The ports may not have the inspections, or maybe they get paid off at the port.
Just seems to me that if we can keep the chemicals out, why can't we keep the pills out? I'm not expecting you necessarily to answer that question. I realize it's a major issue, but
They're
curious to me that we seem to be able to keep one out but not the other.
Yeah. Years ago, fentanyl was costing like $20 a pill. Now it's down to $3.50 a pill. So, a kid in high school, junior high or anything, mom and dad would give him a $3.50. I want some lunch money. Okay, here, well, I'll buy a pill instead of lunch or whatever, or something, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of warnings this Halloween for trick-or-treaters because, like you said, the candy, some of it looks just like gummy bears. They look just like gummy bears.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one that they've come out that it looks like a vitamin in the form of like a gummy bear. And then, like I said, the others are like the sweet tarts.
You have the sweet tarts and that other old candy. I can't remember what it is. It's in the like sweet tarts. Yeah, they've been.
That's what their goal is if we get one, if we can get you to take one of these, we got you. Now we're just gonna keep coming, you'll keep coming back.
There's no danger to it as far as you touched it with your hand or?
There is, like us, if we know we have our other machine that tests for drugs on site. It'll test powder form or pill form or anything like that. If it's powder, you want to be very careful. We'll use our gloves. But yeah, if you get it on your hands and even start licking your hands or something, you could have an effect. There's been incidents that have been reported that state patrolman pulled over a car. They had powder in there, rolled down the window, and there's just enough of a draft out. State patrolman went down. Very quick. We carry Narcan. That's what's sad is the drug dealers or these even places that work with drugs, they'll give everyone Narcan, which reverses it, it neutralizes it. EMS, when they arrive on a scene and they suspect drugs at all, they're giving them Narcan to neutralize it. Told us that when people are out like that, they can hear you talking. They just can't talk because it lowers the respiratory rate is what it does. Lowers your heart rate really slow. You can hear them talking, or they can hear you talking, and then you give them Narcan and they come out of it and they'll tell you everything you said. And a lot of them, they'll have Narcan right there, but sometimes it's just like that. And they don't have the chance to even administer their Narcan to themselves. So.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Keith, best of luck to you, and thank you for everything you've done with me and helped me in my office.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Wayne, we look forward to working with you.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Thank you. Well, I think that pretty much concludes. We don't have nothing to catch up on. We don't want to try and call Jennifer up right now because she's scheduled after lunch, right?
We could, but I suspect she's working on the flood control in the in the building.
How about Liz? Do you think Liz might be able to come?
I could
It's just going to change the timing.
go see if they're available, if that's the preference of the board.
Well,
Bringing them in just juggles the schedule. It
Yeah.
doesn't finish us up any earlier today, I don't think.
yeah, it's
Just
just,
moves lunch farther out.
I think probably just go ahead and break for lunch now and come back at 1 o'clock. So at this time, we'll recess until 1 o'clock.
Yeah, they're really putting some kind of adhesive down for Jennifer. Do you smell that in the hallway?